Marcus Aurelius wrote his most honest self-assessments not in letters to friends, but in a private journal he never intended anyone to read. Why? Because he knew that the people who loved him would soften the truth. Your enemies don't have that problem. They see you clearly, without the filter of affection. And that clarity? It might be the most valuable thing you're ignoring. Your enemies are paying attention to you in ways your friends simply aren't. Abraham Lincoln kept his political rivals closest, literally appointing them to his cabinet. Seward, Chase, Bates, men who publicly mocked him, who thought he was unfit for office. He didn't do this out of forgiveness. He did it because he understood that men who want to defeat you study you. They catalog your weaknesses, your patterns, your blind spots. Lincoln used that scrutiny as intelligence. Friendship softens perception. When someone loves you, their brain literally filters out your flaws to preserve the relationship. Psychologists call it positive illusion bias. An enemy has no such incentive. They observe you with cold, strategic precision. That precision is information. The question is whether you're willing to receive it. The criticism that angers you most is usually the criticism that's most accurate. Schopenhauer argued that we hate most in others what we secretly recognize in ourselves. Think about the last time someone said something about you that made you furious, not hurt, not sad, but genuinely angry. Now ask yourself honestly, was there any truth in it? Theodore Roosevelt was accused of being reckless and impulsive by his opponents. He dismissed it publicly. Privately, in his diaries, he wrestled with exactly that tendency for decades. Anger is a defense mechanism. When a criticism lands in an area where we're already insecure, the emotional response spikes because the ego is trying to protect a wound it hasn't healed yet. Your enemies didn't create that wound, they just found it. The anger is your own conscience knocking. Enemies force you to develop strengths you never would have built in comfortable company. Nietzsche's famous line, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger," is often quoted as empty motivation. But he meant something precise: adversity creates adaptation. Consider Epictetus, born a slave, physically crippled, owned by a cruel master. His enemies were not abstract. They had real power over his body. And yet he developed a philosophy of inner sovereignty so rigorous that Roman emperors later studied it. Comfort doesn't forge that. Pressure does. This is the iron law of adaptation. The body and mind respond to resistance, not to ease. When an enemy challenges you professionally, socially, intellectually, they are imposing a demand on you that forces growth. Your friends, who want you comfortable, will rarely push you this hard. The man who has never been seriously opposed rarely discovers his actual capacity. What your enemy says about you publicly tells you how you're perceived, and perception is power. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must manage his reputation as carefully as his army, because reputation precedes every action. Julius Caesar's enemies called him power-hungry, reckless with tradition, a threat to the republic. Caesar understood that this perception, accurate or not, was shaping political reality. Rather than defending against it, he leaned into the archetype strategically. The man who ignores how he's being characterized by his opponents is walking into battle blind. Your enemies narrate a version of you to the world. That narrative shapes how neutral third parties see you before you ever open your mouth. Most men completely ignore this. The Stoic move is not to be controlled by it, but to know it. You can't manage what you refuse to examine. Your enemy's story about you is market research on your own reputation. Learning to extract value from hostility is the mark of a man who has mastered himself. Viktor Frankl, imprisoned in Nazi concentration camps, made a decision that his captors could not understand. He chose to observe his own suffering with clinical detachment, to extract meaning from it. He couldn't control what they did to him. He could control what he did with the experience. He came out and built an entire school of psychology, logotherapy, from the most hostile conditions imaginable. His enemies handed him the raw material for his life's work. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control, the discipline of separating what is in your power from what isn't. Your enemy's opinion of you is not in your control. What you do with it is. The man who can sit with hostility, extract the signal from the noise, and use it as fuel, that man is genuinely free. Not because he has no enemies, but because he's learned to make them useful. Here's what you should walk away with. 1. Your enemies are studying you with a precision your friends never will. That scrutiny is intelligence, not just insult. 2. The criticism that makes you angriest is almost always the one closest to the truth. Your emotional reaction is the tell. 3. Adversity and opposition force you to develop strengths that comfort never could, and the man who learns to extract value from hostility has found something most men never do, a source of growth that never runs dry. The Stoics didn't pray for easy lives. They trained for hard ones. Your enemies are part of that training. Start treating them accordingly. If this hit differently than the usual motivation content, if it gave you something to actually think about rather than just feel good for 5 minutes, subscribe. We drop one of these every Tuesday and Friday. No fluff, no hype. Just ideas that hold up under pressure. Hit the bell so you don't miss it.